Welcome to GC 365. It's March 23rd and day 82 of the one-year reading plan. My name is Mandy and I'm the marketing director here at Gold Creek.
My name is Emily. I'm the accounting administrator here at Gold Creek.
And tell us a little about you, Emily.
So I have been attending Gold Creek since I was in third grade, and I've been on staff for just over 5 years now. And I also volunteer with the little babies in the nursery on Sunday mornings and with the Encounter High School youth on Sunday nights.
Yeah, Emily is very involved here at Gold Creek. So we were talking that she's been here for 5 years working. I've been here, I'm on my third year. And admittedly, neither of us, our first year, were very good at reading the one-year Bible.
Right.
Just one of those things that's kind of tough for us to fit in. We just weren't really sure following the stories. But this has definitely held us accountable.
Yes.
We do this as a staff, and we're really enjoying it this year, being able to share with you guys. And so we're excited about the reading. And it's not too late. If you're not reading with us, you can still join us daily for these discussion videos. So jump on in. Let's get started with today's reading.
Yeah. So we pick up in the Old Testament. We're in Numbers 36, and this is the last chapter in the book of Numbers. And the title of this one, I got really excited when I read it because it's called Women Who Inherit Property. And this is very fitting for me as I just recently moved out on my own. So I didn't inherit property, but I now own property and bought my own condo. And so that was really exciting. It's a little bit different than the story in Numbers today. This is when Zelophehad had 5 daughters and no sons, and the land was to be inherited by the daughters instead of the sons, so that it would pass down through his family line. And they were concerned about who the daughters would marry so that they could keep the land in the family. And this just kind of reminded me of family traditions and what we pass down through our families. I'm not married, but looking at both my parents' sides of the family, my mom's family is all in Washington State, and my dad's family is scattered throughout the states. So we get together with my mom's family a lot for, Christmas traditions and things like that. And there's some get-togethers that I hope to pass down and be able to continue on when I do have a family. And you are married. And so have you brought in some traditions or things that you've inherited or passed down now that you are blended with your husband?
Yeah. So I've been married for 8 years now. And you definitely, there's things that you kind of want to keep from your family that you grew up doing and things from the other family and kind of honor those. And now we have 2 children. And so now it's trying to create our own family traditions. Right. But I was sharing with Emily that actually it's not so much the traditions, but it's really just moving in with somebody that was, I don't want to say it was difficult. That sounds bad. But there are things that your family did, and you don't really understand how people do them differently. So the big thing for me, I was an under the toilet paper roll person.
Yes.
That's how I grew up. The toilet paper roll went under.
That's wrong, Mandy.
I know. And so my husband always put it over.
Yep.
And so it was one of those things, like we didn't necessarily argue about it, but it was whoever finished the toilet paper roll got to choose which way it went. And it was just kind of one of those things that was sort of funny. And I don't like to lose. I don't give in easily. I like to be right. But I will say, I'm a convert. I've converted. I'm an over toilet paper roll person now. But it's just kind of one of those things that's funny when you have to kind of blend those things, and it's different when you put your families together like that. So
yeah, I can definitely see there's things that I've just done now moving out on my own that I'll still take that my mom does, or something that I just grew up used to doing it that way, and I've kept it the same moving out. And I'm like, no, I will not change. This is how it's done
for no one.
Exactly.
Now we'll move into to Deuteronomy. We're in Deuteronomy 1. And if you want to share.
Yeah. So this is the Israelites are now camped on the Jordan River. They're ready to, they could see the promised land on the other side. But Moses takes this time to address them first. And let's see, the verse that caught my eye here starts in verse 9 when it says, Moses continued, "At that time I told you, you are too great a burden for me to carry all by myself." So this is talking about when he appointed leaders from the tribes to kind of handle some of the disagreements. He kind of broke up the nation of the people so that it wasn't all on one person. And this is actually applicable to me because at work a few weeks ago, there was a project that I had, and it was just kind of weighing on me. There was no time limit on it, but it was something that I needed to work on, and I hadn't started it yet. It was just weighing on me. I kept pushing it back. And another staff member actually came to me and said, I want to help you tackle this. Like, let's do it together. I want to ease some of this burden and stress on you. And so that was really eye-opening to me, that I can, let go of this control and let somebody else help me. And it really eased the stress on my shoulders. So that was cool.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting too. Emily had pointed this out to me, and I listened to the Bible on the app, and you hear some things coming through, which is going to actually kind of make my point later funny of not listening. But you hear these different things that come through. And she had pointed out that this journey was supposed to take 11 days.
Yep.
And it ended up taking 40 years.
Yeah.
And that's not even a close amount of time.
No.
And so it was just, to me, it's like thinking of how long, like I'm not even 40 years old yet. And so thinking of that length of time it takes to travel somewhere.
I was saying, I don't like road trips, and I can't imagine an 11-day road trip taking 40 years. Like,
could you imagine like kids in the back, like, are we there yet? It's been 10 years. Like, how many more are we going to go? But yeah. And so she kind of also alluded to the fact of, and we've heard this story earlier in our reading, but how it is kind of like the beginning of the political structure of how they decided to break up the different groups of people and put somebody to rule over, because Moses could not do it all. Everyone was coming to him for all his problems and for their problems, and he just couldn't do it. And so it is sort of that build of the political structure. And I was sharing with Emily that I so kindly received in the mail a week or so ago a summons for jury duty. Yay. So I get to coming up here pretty soon. I've been chosen. I've been randomly selected. They make it seem like it's such an honor to be randomly selected, but to do my civic duty.
Yep.
But it's just kind of interesting of how something that was started and put into place so long ago is something that is still so relevant today, and something that we hear about all the time, and still kind of how they've put that into place of, the governing parties over different groups of people. And so it's interesting. So maybe we'll have to come back with part 2 of how jury duty goes if I get called. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But as we continued kind of through Deuteronomy here, as you get further through, it's a little bit longer. So this whole length of time is 40 years that this is happening. And the Lord told them the journey like how they were supposed to do this, how they were supposed to go and travel. But the Israelites just continued to
disobey and not trust.
Exactly. To not trust, to disobey, to not listen, that they had all the answers. They knew what they were supposed to do. And it says in there a handful of times that they were complaining, that they were not listening. And so I said to Emily, I was like, I can sympathize with the Lord, because I am dealing with a 4-year-old in my house right now who does not want to listen. Ugh. She has all the right answers. Yeah. She complains about nearly everything. Like it's a bit of a challenge. And so the part that kind of struck me at the very end in verse 45, so like after that they had, complained and they were arrogantly like refusing to listen, it says, then you returned and wept before the Lord, but he refused to listen. And so he kind of turns the tables on him. Yeah. And again, I deal with that of the not listening. And when you lose your toys, they come crying really fast. So it's just you lost that one. So it was very applicable to my everyday
struggles.
Yeah. As we move into the New Testament, so we move into Luke 5, and Emily has some verses to read.
So this is when Jesus is eating with Levi and the tax collectors, who the Pharisees saw as the sinners and the unrighteous. And so I highlighted verse 31 when it says, Jesus answered them, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. I have come to call not those who think they are righteous, but those who know they are sinners and need to repent. And this is a verse that I think we've all heard before, and it's just always applicable because I feel like there's this stereotype maybe, or this view that people who are Christians or who go to church are perfect and have it all together. And if you've been to church, you know that that's just not true. We're just a bunch of broken people, coming together to experience the love and like redemption of Jesus. And so I thought that was very fitting that Jesus, was sitting there having a meal with the unrighteous and not spending time with the, self-righteous religious leaders who thought they had it all together.
Mm-hmm. You had a really funny analogy for this.
Yeah. So it's kind of like when, okay, so gyms have been closed for a while. They just recently opened up. I haven't been to the gym in a while, but I had this mindset of maybe I should get fit at home first before I can go to the gym, and then I'll just continue working out at the gym. So it's the same type of mindset, like get right with yourself or with the Lord before you go to church. But we know that's just not true. And it's just a place for messy, broken people to go, because that's where,
it's where you
the
find
sick
your healing.
people go.
Yeah,
And
it's where you find your
church is the
healing.
hospital for the broken.
Absolutely.
So. And what did you, so Luke continues. We have Luke
Yes.
5 and 6 in our reading, and you had something to point out in Luke 6.
Yeah, well, Luke 6 talks all about how the Pharisees are trying to catch Jesus doing something wrong. And they talk specifically about him working on the Sabbath. And as you know, you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. That's the day for rest. And so it was just really interesting of how I can just kind of imagine Jesus somewhat like a celebrity in a way. I mean, he's doing, these, miraculous things, and crowds are following him, but yet he's under the microscope big time, and the Pharisees are always watching him. They're waiting for their moment, for their gossip almost, right? Their thing that they did wrong, trying to catch him in the act. And if you mess up, you'll be scrutinized. And so, he's doing these different acts throughout Luke, where, they have their eye on him the whole time. And I just can't imagine really like what that lifestyle was like for him and how tiring it must have been. I think probably physically and mentally, to just always have people questioning what you're doing, wanting you to do something wrong, wanting you to mess up.
Right.
But yet he continued on. He persevered.
Yeah. I think that's cool.
And then we move into Psalms, and we were in Psalm 66, and Emily has something to share from verse 7.
Yes. Verse 7, I highlighted because it says, "For by his great power he rules forever. He watches every movement of the nations. Let no rebel rise in defiance." And I really liked this verse. I read it over a couple times because it just really, with the current climate going on right now, I'll be honest, I don't follow politics very closely. I don't watch the news a ton because it does give me anxiety just seeing, the state that our country is in, our communities, our society, because it's something that I can't control. And so this was just a really good reminder that, he watches every movement of the nations. He knows what's going on, and he's still in control. So I think it was just a reminder to continuously, and it talks about prayer. So just continuously praying for our country, our leaders, our, communities, and because God has it under control and we don't.
Yep,
so
it does.
It's refreshing.
And the verses within this psalm that stuck out to me were verses 16 through 20, which says, "Come and listen, all you who fear God, and I will tell you what he did for me. For I cried out to him for help, praising him as I spoke. If I had not confessed the sin in my heart, the Lord would not have listened. But God did listen. He paid attention to my prayer. Praise God who did not ignore my prayer or withdraw his unfailing love for me." And a few months ago, Pastor Dan had, during one of his sermons, he had kind of talked about how prayer can sometimes feel like you're standing in line at the DMV, like you're taking your ticket, and how, you continue to pray, but you're not sure when God's going to answer. And, you question if he's going to answer. Right. And what I just love and hear, it says he paid attention to my prayer. He did not ignore my prayer, and he's not ignoring it. He's just waiting for the perfect time because he has our plan. And
it's not necessarily going to get answered right away.
Exactly. And just kind of be patient with that, and that he will continue to love you no matter what. And he will be there for you. So that's what stuck out to me there.
Cool.
And then we move into Proverbs, and we had chapter 11, verses 24 through 26.
Yeah, so I'll just go ahead and read through this really quick. It says, "Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. The generous will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. People curse those who hoard their grain, but they bless the one who sells in time of need." And I really liked these verses. I thought they were very fitting since I work in the finance department, and it's about giving. And one of the things that I love about my job that I get to do is writing cards to people who are first-time givers or have taken that next step and are first-time tithers, just because it's a celebration of that next step in their faith journey and trusting God with their finances. And but this verse is kind of a paradox between the world tells us to, accumulate as much as you can and hoard all of your wealth and keep it all for yourself. But then God is telling us, trust me with these things and give freely to others. And the Lord, loves a cheerful giver. And so I think the big takeaway here is kind of getting outside of yourself. And when you give to others, you are in turn fulfilled, and you you are blessed because you're blessing others. And it kind of reminded me of like paying it forward when you pay for someone's Starbucks drink behind you in line or something like that. So.
Yeah, I love the idea of paying it forward.
Yeah.
So that's where we will end. So thanks for joining us for GC 365. Don't forget to keep up to date with your reading plan, watch the video discussions, and make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the videos.
Yeah.
And maybe pay it forward.
There you go.
Have a good day.